started. All right, so welcome to How to Plan Your First Hire. We are really excited for you to join us. My name's Catherine from Modern Planner.
And I'm Ashley from Sprout HR.
All right, and so we're going to be getting started with our worksheet and with all of the exciting things that we have to share with you guys. So this is going to be 90 minutes of full-on training and action. So I hope that you are ready. And again, as you're coming, we would love for you to introduce yourself over in the chat so that we can say hi. We love seeing who is in. We've got Kiana from doing some interior design student and looking to start her own business. Ashley from Atlanta. Ooh, a few different companies with multiple employees. I love it. Great. Thank you guys for sharing about your business because that totally gives us context as we're going through today's training. All right, I'm going to let Ashley take it away.
Well, like we said in our introductory things, we're not going to be talking about us today. It is all about you. So we're going to dive right in and we're going to get started working on your business right now. So we're on page 1 of our worksheet under section 1 titled Reflection. And you guys, this is the time that we're going to take to really think about how things have been going in your business or businesses. For those of you who have multiple businesses, this might be a great opportunity to really identify which business has been giving you the most challenges, because it's going to be almost impossible to look at all 3 businesses just in a 90-minute call. So pick one business or one opportunity area that you're going to be really focused on today. Because again, like we said, you can take this process and replicate it over and over. And I want you to think back on the past year. In 2017, what went well and what didn't go so well? And when we think about the things that didn't go so well, what are those stemming from? Is it stemming from you didn't have enough help, you didn't have enough time to finish everything, you struggled to be consistent? I know that's a really big challenge for a lot of business owners, is just keeping consistent, whether that's with blogging or following up with leads or a whole host of other things. When we lack consistency in our business, that's a sign that it's probably time to get some help. So let's take a look at how we can start taking all of these tasks that are swirling around in our business and put them through a filtering process that Catherine's going to walk us through.
Yeah, for sure. So on the worksheet, you can think about other kind of reflection questions. Like I love what Ashley said, like what worked really well, what were some of the challenges that you had? Keep that in mind. And what we want you to do is walk through what I call the 4D filter. So this is the very first page of your worksheet. And there are 4 boxes. So I'm just going to explain a little bit about each of these and then what you're going to be doing. So the first box that you see on the left is delete. Okay, so these are all the things, if you're thinking about all the tasks and all the stuff in your business that you've got going on, what is something that you can delete? And what I want you to do is actually start making a list. Now, a lot of times these are not going to be obvious. These might be the things that are always sitting in the back of your mind that you're like, oh, I really should do this, I should do this, but you never actually do it. So if you've not done it for a long time, you're probably not ever going to do it. Or what is just some weight that you can just let go of and not do? Okay, so those are the things that you want to write in the delete box. The second box, I want to go down to defer. So defer is what are those things that you can put off or postpone. An example for us would be Ashley and I postponed this workshop for quite a little while, actually. We talked about it 6 months ago. We were going to plan it. We're like, oh, should we do it before Christmas? And then we were like, no, that does not make sense. And so we bumped it. And then we bumped it again because we realized, no, we want to be really prepared, really ready so that we can have a high quality workshop. So that's something that we deferred. So that's an example. If you put this off another 3 or 6 months, is it going to affect your business in a big way? If not, then let's defer it. Okay. The third box on the top right is delegate. So what can someone else do? Now, this might require training and lots of other things that we're going to get into in just a few minutes. But if you don't have to do it, then you want to put it in that box. And then the do box, that bottom right, these are all the things that are left that you should be doing. So these are the things that you want to focus on, that you should be spending your time on in your business or businesses. All right, so what we're going to do is actually, Ashley, before they do this, I would love if you could give a few examples of tasks to delegate, just to get people kind of thinking about that, because that's the section, that box is what we're starting to really base the entire rest of the training on. So it's important that you get a good start on that.
Absolutely. And I always work with my clients on going through my own filtering system for tasks that you should be delegating. So I want you to think of tasks that you're doing as CEO level tasks, and tasks that you're going to be delegating aren't CEO level tasks. They're tasks that anybody else in your business or subcontractors or people that you partner with may be able to help you with. So the first thing is get those tasks off your plate that you despise doing, that you find yourself procrastinating every single time. Y'all, there are some tasks that I will put off until the cows come home. And I know that those are things that I don't enjoy doing. Maybe I'm not good at doing them and they need to just go. So tasks you don't enjoy doing or that you always find yourself procrastinating. The next, tasks that take up way too much time. There are some tasks that are just gobbling up all of your time that you could be focused on those CEO level tasks, and those need to come off your plate, because why spend 4 hours a week doing a task that's really not necessarily a money generating task, because those are the ones that you should be working on, but that is still essential to your business running smoothly. So let's get those tasks off your plate. The third one is, this one's going to hurt y'all, tasks you love doing but take up tons of time. There are things that we all love to do. I love to mess around in Canva. I can literally procrastinate my entire day away by playing around in Canva, making really important Instagram posts. Y'all, that is not a good use of my time. That is something I can easily get off my plate, that somebody else can do, and that I don't need to be avoiding whatever big scary project I should be working on in my business. So let's get those things that you love but take a ton of time off your plate. And then the fourth and final filter that we should send our tasks through is tasks that somebody could do better and faster. And here's a great example for you. It took me 4 hours to edit a 5-minute video clip one time. Let's just let that sink in for half a second. 4 hours to edit a 5-minute. I am not technically inclined at all. I'm a people person, not a tech person. So I knew that anything I needed to have edited, I needed to get off my plate, because I could spend 4 hours doing something so much more effective and productive and money generating in my business. So those are the 4 things that you should be filtering your task to delegate to.
Yeah, those are some really great examples. And I think that that's a great start. So if you're trying to figure out, what can I delegate? Hopefully those questions and those kind of filters that Ashley just shared will give you a good starting point. So what we would love for you to do now is we're actually going to take 5 minutes and we want you to fill out this 4D filter for your business. So this is how this workshop is going to work. We are going to pause our recording and set a 5-minute timer, and after that we'll be back. So if you're watching the replay, what we'd love for you to do is when we hit pause, we want you to take as much time as you need to complete the 4D filter so that you are ready to go for the next section. So if you're watching the replay, you can take more than 5 minutes. Live, we're going to try to keep things moving so that we don't get too stuck on one thing. We want to make sure we get right to the end of the training. So that is what we're going to do right now. So I am going to hit the pause button. And then we are going to give you 5 minutes to fill out the 4D filter for your business. So I'm going to throw this in the comments so that you guys know what you're doing, just in case you forget. So action, take 5 minutes to do the 4D filter for your business. So that is what we're working on right now. So we're going to pause the recording. I'm going to set a 5-minute timer, and then we will come back to check on you.
There's Catherine. Oh no, I can't hear you. So sorry, guys. Hang on a second here and let's see.
All right.
There you are.
I am so sorry. Did I disappear for a long time?
You totally were gone. I lost you. And then I asked everybody else if they lost you, and they did.
I do not know what happened. Suddenly it just closed.
See, I
All
think
right.
it's me. I told you at the beginning that technology sees me coming, and it's like, there's Ashley.
Oh dear, that is not good. Not good. I'm sorry about that, guys. I am just going to just do that for a moment. All right, so I don't know where I was and how long you guys missed of me because I could still see myself talking. So I really apologize for that, guys.
Fourth dimension.
So the 4D filter. So what you're going to do is Ashley's talked about those filters. We're going to give you 5 minutes to go through and fill out the 5D filter. So I'm just going to type this action. Yeah, so all of those boxes. So take 5 minutes to fill out the 4D filter. Okay, so this is...
And I've dropped the how to kind of filter your tasks in the chat box as well. So those 4 things that I went over are dropped in the chat box. So that way you guys can refer back to that as well.
Yeah, which is awesome. And so one of the things that we just want to make note of as well is that if you are watching the replay, we're going to be pausing the training. So you take as much time as you need to fill out the 4D filter. We're just going to be doing 5 minutes live so that it doesn't take too long, but hopefully that is going to work out really well for everybody. Okay, so we are going to pause and you guys can take some time to fill out the 4D filter. And be sure to leave any questions in the chat. So if you're unsure about something or you've got a question, feel free to do that and then we'll chat about that when we come back. What we want you to do is list as many things as you can think of that you would be delegating from that 4D filter box. And now what we want to do is put that into the priorities worksheet in that left column, I will delegate. Okay, so we're going to give you a couple minutes to do that and then we'll pop back and explain how the rest of the worksheet is going to go so that you can be filling that out. So I would love to know from you guys in the chat how this is going and how you're doing with filling in that chart. So if you just want to pop in and say, I'm done, or if you're like, I still have so many things left to go, just so we can kind of gauge. Like I've got a timer going and we can give you another minute or two, but I would really love to know, okay, Liz is still in process.
This is a big process, so it's okay.
Yeah, this is not a little thing.
Yeah.
So if we can have a couple more people, just let us know where you're at. But it looks like it would be helpful for you guys to have a little bit more time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set another 2-minute timer so that we can continue because we really want to build out this before we continue filling out the rest of this chart. So I'm going to give you guys another 2 minutes and then we'll check back in. All right, so time goes really fast when you are doing this kind of work. And partly that's because we don't usually slow down like this a lot. And so it's a new thing. So it takes us a while to get into the process of actually like slowing down, thinking about this stuff and planning. So hopefully you've got a good selection of stuff in that first column that I will delegate. So what we want to do is we're going to look at the rest of the chart now and talk about what we are going to do. So what we want you to do is fill in the other columns. So for everything that you have in the delegate column, which is on the left, all the different tasks that you've written, you want to fill out the rest of the chart. So the next column says one time or ongoing. So one of the examples that Ashley used earlier was like a website. So maybe you need a website redesign and you need to bring someone on your team for that. That would be like a one-time project that once you've done your website, you don't need to do a big update for a little while. Okay, so that would be a one-time example. Do you have a couple other one-time examples for us, Ashley?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll use a personal example. I'm getting ready to start a podcast, which I have not announced to the whole wide world yet, but you guys get a little sneak peek. So I'm getting ready to start a podcast. And again, y'all, everything comes back to me and technology. So the whole setup of the actual back end part of a podcast is going to be a one-time thing that I'm going to delegate. And I'm filling out my chart just like you guys are right now. And these are all my podcasting tasks. So the podcasting setup would actually be a one-time task that I'm going to delegate. I'm also getting some help with the naming and the branding. So that's going to be a one-time task as well. But some ongoing tasks are going to be editing the episodes, batch creating content, transcribing the podcast. So that way we have show notes and we can do blog posts and we can do some other social media things. But those are going to be more ongoing, probably monthly tasks that I'll delegate. So that kind of gives you some examples around a very real, very quick approaching project that I'm working on.
Yeah, that's a really great example. The other thing that I'll just point out is that when you could say ongoing, or instead of writing ongoing, you could say how frequently. So for instance, like social media is not my strength. I would love some support in that. I don't know what that looks like, but for right now, I just wrote daily. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's actually just weekly or monthly, like helping with a plan and scheduling or whatever. I'm not really sure. But like things like metric tracking or analytics reports. So these are all something that I've previously had a VA do, but I've had a transition. And so I'm looking to rebuild my team again. So it's those process of, okay, well, the analytics can just happen every month. So you could write something down monthly, or you could say ongoing, whatever works better for you to be more detailed. So that's the first column, or the second column. Then the next one is time. So it helps if you've done a task over and over again and you know how long it takes. This is going to be a really easy thing to fill out. If you're not really sure and you haven't maybe done this before, just try to estimate. And here's a recommendation. I always recommend the 2x rule. So if you've not done something and you're like, oh, you know what? I think it'll take me about an hour. Then write down 2 because things almost always take longer than we think they do. Okay, so you're going to write down, is it one time or ongoing? Is it a time? So how long is this task going to take? And then the other big thing that we want you to look at is it income generating? So for instance, all the things that I have right now in my delegating list, none of them are income generating.
It happens.
Which is good, because that means that I'm delegating the stuff that's income generating, and currently I might be doing those. So, but some of the things that you are thinking about delegating, maybe they actually are income generating. It's like, yeah, okay, well, then that will determine how you prioritize, which we're going to get to later. Kiana said, I'm definitely not strong with social media. Maybe I can find a PR student to help or something like that. And that is a great way to look at it. See if there's someone who part-time, like there's going to be lots of options, and we're going to get into that later in the training. But those are just some ideas for you. So what we're going to do now is set another timer for you, and we're going to give you a good 5 minutes for this so you can fill out the next 3 columns for each of the tasks that you have. And what would be awesome is if you get finished within that 5 minutes, if you could let us know in the chat and just say, hey, I'm done. That way we can kind of see what's going on. However, I feel like you're going to need the full 5 minutes for this. All right, so I'm going to set the timer, and we will be back in about 5 minutes.
All right. So we should have a pretty robust list at this point. You should have tons of tasks on there that you could possibly delegate. You should have the timing outlined. You should have how much time it's going to take, how often you need for it to be done, and whether or not it's an income generating task, or whether it could lead to you doing something that's income generating, because ultimately that's what we want you to be doing, is to focus on those CEO level tasks that really bring in the leads, the clients, the income, the things that are going to keep your business chugging along. So now we're going to move on to the next section in our priorities activity, and that's on the 3rd page. And that's at the very top. It says, now it's time to prioritize the tasks you want to delegate. And this is where things can get really challenging, right, Catherine?
Oh, yes, because basically we're saying, all right, you want to delegate and need to delegate all 20 of these things, but we would like you to pick your top 3 to start with, because you cannot delegate all of these things at one time. It just is not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not financially responsible. And our businesses are made or should be made to make money, right? The number one goal of any business is to make money. And we want to be able to be conscientious of that fact and to make sure that we're not delegating out all of our profit, all of our owner's income, just to invest in getting all the things done. So there may be some things here that you're like, oh, I guess I could put that on the back burner. But here are my tips for really selecting those tasks that you're going to identify as your top 3 projects and your top 3 ongoing, because you're going to be allowed to choose 6. But only 3 that are one-time project-based items and 3 that are ongoing activities or events. So the first thing I would say is, what is causing you the most or taking up the most time in your business? Those are things that we need to get off your plate ASAP. Let's say that you're only working in your business 20 hours a week, but you've got a task that's taking up 5 hours. That's taking up a quarter of the time that you have to work in your business, and that's not good. So what are those tasks that are really taking up giant gobs of your time? And let's look at that delegate list and maybe put a star beside tasks that are taking you a really, really, really long time to do. The next thing you might consider are, what are tasks that you're failing at performing consistently that are impacting your business, whether that's putting out content consistently, whether it's following up with leads consistently, whether it's being able to even work on your business consistently. If you're doing your business as a part-time side hustle and you're not able to consistently work on something in your business every week or even every day,
Oh,
Kiana?
Kiana can't hear Ashley? I hear her. She's unmuted. Can anyone else comment and let us know if you hear Ashley? Because we definitely don't want, okay, Liz hears her.
Okay.
So that's good. Yeah, you might have bumped your audio, Kiana.
Kiana, I feel you, girl. This technology thing.
And we've not been having a good day with technology. Oh, you don't hear me either. Well, I think that's probably on your end then. I did unlock it because we had the technical difficulties, so you might be better off. Oh, it's fixed. Okay.
Perfect.
Perfect. Good.
So we want you to take a couple of minutes now to really identify what are those projects that you need to get off your plate immediately, whether they're causing a huge time drain in your business, you're not able to do something in your business consistently that's negatively impacting your business, or something that could really free you up to have the opportunity to work on those CEO level tasks. So take a minute, look at that big list and go, oh, I know I don't want to get rid of any of these things, but this is just about prioritizing. It doesn't mean that these things can't be delegated in the future.
Yeah, totally.
Right now, this is what's most important. And this is a problem that a lot of people struggle with, whether they're small business owners, they work in corporate, they manage a household. It's really hard to prioritize, but we want you to take a minute to really think about, if I got this off my plate today, how would that positively impact my life and my business?
So good. And here's the thing, we're making you do this really fast. I'm setting a 1-minute timer because the longer we have, the harder it is to make decisions. So I want you to look at this, go with your gut, go with those filters that Ashley has already said. You probably know what you should be doing first. So go with what you know you should be delegating. So 1 minute, go. All right, it's been 1 minute. We are cutting you off. So hopefully you have your top 3 priorities for projects, for things that are just a one-time thing, and your top 3 for ongoing. So what I would love is if you can share, well, actually, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to make you do the next piece first, and then I want you to share. Okay. Now you have 6 things that you've just said are the top things for you to delegate. Now we want you to pick one. Now, so we're moving to the planning piece, okay? So this is a framework and where we reflect, we prioritize, we plan, okay? And then we schedule. So that's what we're getting to. So Now, you need to pick either one project, so the number one project that's coming up for you, or we've said a position that you want to create your hiring plan for. So if you've realized that, oh, a lot of your tasks are social media related, so maybe you need to hire a position that is whatever, like part-time, subcontractor, whatever that looks like. Ashley's going to talk about that in a little bit. But maybe there's a position that incorporates social media where you can wrap up 3 or 4 or 5 of those tasks into one position. Okay. Or maybe there's a position where it's more like general admin. Like for me, I think that that's what I'm leaning towards. But I still kind of need to look at it a little bit more to figure out if that's the next role. But the one position that I've just recently hired is actually writing. So someone that does a lot of writing for me. So I do all of my points and things like that. So that's actually what I'm going to focus on, because that's a very, very new thing that I still need to get really organized, because I onboarded before I maybe did everything else, like we're going to be talking about in a minute. All right. So what we want you to do is pick one project or one position that you're going to create your hiring plan for. And then I want you to drop that in the comments so that we know the project or position that you're hiring. Because from here on out, we're focusing on one thing, one project or one position that you're hiring for. Okay. So drop that in the comments so that we can see what it is. So we'll give you a couple seconds here to think about it. And then let us know in the chat what you are focusing on, because this is from here on out, this is everything. Okay, social media help. Kiana's focusing on that.
And there's no right or wrong answers, you guys.
No, not at all.
Most helpful to you. Here's the thing that drives me absolutely bonkers is when you're in a Facebook group. So most of us are probably familiar with small business owned Facebook groups, and somebody goes, help, I need help. I just need anybody who can help me. And the first, 57 comments are, hire my VA, hire my VA, hire me, I'm a VA. And everybody comes in and there's just like this mass onslaught of people saying, you should hire my VA. Well, let me tell you a little secret. VA is the most ambiguous term that I have ever heard in my entire being. And I really don't love it, just to be as honest as I can, because there are so many people using it in so many different ways that it's really not a helpful descriptor, right? It's one of those terms that it's like, I don't really know what else to call myself, so I'm going to be a VA. So when you're thinking about help, I need to hire a VA, one VA could be amazing at social media and PR and outreach and things like that. And another VA might be exceptional at audio and video editing and, tech support and things like that. So they're two totally different people doing two totally different things. So this is to really help you define and narrow down what you need specifically in your business versus going with a blanket term. And like Catherine said, I need administrative help. I need somebody who can do these specific tasks. Maybe she needs an office business manager or an online business manager versus, a tech VA. So we got to really get defined and clear on these things. So that way you can hire the right person to do the right things in your business and not just the first person who comes along that's recommended.
Totally. And
they might be fabulous people, but they might not be what you need.
Yes. And that's why you want to get clear about the things that you need. And so Liz has a question. So all my projects are graphics creation and blog management related. So her question, Ashley, is do blogs fall under that social media umbrella?
Yeah, they can, but I would probably more so call that social and content media.
Yeah,
and there
content.
are people who are very well equipped to help you with both of those. But the more clear you can be in what your specific needs are, just like you've lined out to us, Liz, will help you find the person who can do both. And don't settle for someone who can do only one or the other, but really take the time, and we're going to talk about this next, of finding the person who can help you in both of those areas. But I would call that social/content media.
Yeah, hopefully that answers your question. And the really great thing that Ashley's pointing out here is that you're not necessarily going to go into a Facebook group or in your job description or whatever and say, I'm looking to hire a VA. that might not actually be the term that you want to use. What you want to do is be very, very clear about the tasks that you want completed. Who cares what they call themselves? You want the best person to do the tasks that you need, regardless of what their title is, right? So that's what we're trying to think. And so the position, be very, don't say admin, like I say graphics creation or content creation, right? Like be kind of more like that, as opposed to listing what you think the title of it should be. List kind of a summary of what it is that you need help with.
Yeah, and I'll take Catherine's comment even a step further and say, what type of graphics? I need a workbook. I need worksheets. I need social media graphics. I need website graphics. I need something specific for a project that I'm coming up and doing. So get really as granular and specific as you can so that you find the right person, because there are people out there who are incredible at creating social media graphics and they don't have a clue on how to put together a workbook. And if you need a workbook, you need somebody who knows how to put that together.
So good. So good. So hopefully everyone has their project and or position that they're looking to create their plan to hire. And so what we want to do now is write the phrase that describes your desired goal. So this is where we decide the direction. So what is the desired goal? How do you want to feel once this person is hired and working with you? What is the descriptor? And you're like, you know what, it's going to, and I mean, I'm just making things up on the spot because these can be very personal to what it is for you. But for instance, for me, one of the positions that I've just hired for is for writing, because I don't mind it, but it takes me so long that it's not worth me doing some of it anyway. And so for me, it was like, I want to be able to put my content together quickly because somebody else has already done the hard work. And all I need to do is tweak a couple things and like copy and paste stuff. And like, I want my newsletters to take me a lot shorter. I want my sales pages and my launch emails to not be complicated. Like I want to enjoy launching because I'm not tired of all the writing. Right? So that's one of my
great decision sentence. You know, I want to enjoy launching because this isn't complicated. It's not.
Yes.
Hard. And a lot of times we focus on living in the pain of whatever thing we're trying to do when we could easily get some help for very reasonable price points.
And what I've acknowledged is the fact that one of my biggest hurdles is that I'm working on shifting my mindset, but I still struggle selling. And so every time I'm writing a launch email, every time I'm writing a sales page, it has to be selling because I know that the programs that I run can change people's lives because it's been proven, but I still struggle with the writing of it. So for me, that is a way for me to increase my sales by me not struggling through the sales process and coming across not good. It's like, no, I want to enjoy the launch period, be able to answer people's questions, be able to hop on Instagram Live and Facebook more because I'm not worried about writing those launch emails and selling and having that icky. It's like, no, I love this. I can help you change your life. So that's an example of like a phrase that describes your desired goal. Mm-hmm. It's very specific to writing and like launch emails, but it's a great example. Do you have another example? Ashley, while writing?
Yeah, I was just going to try to use one of the ones from the chat. So Liz is talking about graphics creation and blog management. So I could say that if I knew a little bit more about, Liz's background and what specifically is causing you some, pain points there, but it might sound something like, I want to have freedom from having to create graphics and blog posts every single week because it drains the energy out of me and I can't focus on my client work because I'm so worried about creating the right graphic or writing the right blog post or something like that. Or even in my own situation, I love to write. I can write novels of information. Like if you go on my blog, you'll see most of my blog posts are 1,000+ words, which most people are like, oh my God, how do you write so much? It just comes to me. I'm just naturally a gifted writer. And my trouble comes, again, the tech side. So, getting the blog post into WordPress, formatting it, editing it, getting the keywords, getting the SEO, blah, 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 all these pieces. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. It drains me. It causes me to procrastinate. I am not then consistent. And since I hired an individual to help me get my blog posts into WordPress and formatted, I have consistently had a blog post go out for the past 8 weeks, which has been so invigorating. Like, I feel so inspired by the content I'm able to create and get out into the world, because I don't have to worry about the back end processes that were draining the life out of me, which then caused me to not create the content that my people need to be reading.
Yeah, it's so good. So there's lots of different ways that you
can. So glad, Liz. Yeah, I'm sorry. I saw Liz said,
hit the nail on the head. I totally missed that. That's so good.
Yeah.
So that's the really important thing about this, right? Is like figuring out what is the desired goal. Like when you think to the end of this, when you've got this position or this project done, how do you feel? Because knowing that, then it will keep you from settling, because it can be really, really easy to settle for something less than ideal. But if you know and you're very clear about this is what I want the end to look like, it's easier to kind of keep going with that. All right, we're going to move on. So hopefully you guys have your desired direction done. I know that Kiana wrote hers in the chat, so thank you for sharing. I think that's great. So the next section is to identify constraints. So there is sometimes a lot of challenges. It's like, what could get in the way of me actually feeling that way and me hiring this person for this project or whatever it is. So I want you to list some of the obstacles and constraints that you could find, but don't stop there. Okay. Then in the box right next to it, list an idea for how you can overcome that. So here's some examples. Budget might be an example of a constraint. So maybe you say, like, this is as much as I can pay right now every month to bring on support. So that's a constraint. You need to find help within this budget. What type of work you need. Maybe it's something really specific, and a constraint might be, it might take me a while to find someone with this specific skill. An example might be, I just said challenge to find the worker that you need. So that could be a huge thing. Or making time for the hiring process. I am so busy running my business, I don't even know where I'm going to find the time to do all these tasks and to actually hire someone. And then life can be a constraint or an obstacle. If you've got sick kids, if you've got vacation coming up, if you've got childcare challenges, if you get sick, like there's so many different things that can happen that can get in the way. So what we want you to do right now is start by listing some of those constraints and how you could possibly overcome them, so you're not surprised when life happens and when a curveball happens or when it's taking way longer to hire someone than you think, because this is just part of normal life. So go ahead and be starting to fill that out. And Ashley, do you have any kind of further advice on this section while they're working on it?
Yeah, I think, it's okay to have obstacles. It's okay to know that there are constraints. It's okay to know that there are going to be challenges. What's not okay is when you let those then become excuses for why you didn't take the action you needed. And
that's great.
I hear
truth bomb.
I am just bringing this truth in the house today, because this is what happens. My clients a lot of times will come to me with their pants on fire, their hair on fire, everything's just a disaster. And they're like, I needed to hire somebody 6 months ago. Well, what happened? I didn't take the time to plan. I didn't make it a priority. I didn't think that it was going to take me as long as it is taking me, because, there's people out there who are putting stuff out saying, hire your next so-and-so in 24 hours. And y'all, that's a bunch of malarkey. Just don't even buy into that. It's lies. It is lies.
Should I make that a truth bomb too?
Right.
Hiring in 24 hours is a bunch of malarkey.
That's right. That's
Ashley
right.
Cox.
That's right. I mean, you're going to get the best quotes from me. But it is. And don't put that kind of pressure or stress on yourself. If you think that you're going to just come in here and whiz it out and hire somebody in 24 hours, you're going to feel so overwhelmed with failure when you're not able to do that. And I don't want you to be there. We're going to talk about timelines here in a minute. And I think it's probably going to surprise you, the amount of time that I would recommend setting aside for these exercises, activities.
Awesome. So what we want to do is give you guys another minute. If you've not already filled out obstacles and an idea to overcome, we're not going to pause or give you a couple extra minutes. We've kind of been talking through this while you've been filling it out, hopefully. But we do really want to get to this next phase of the next steps of understanding the phases, creating your plan, and then working on your timeline. These are biggies. And we also want to honor like our 90-minute commitment that we said, which we're actually like really nearing. So we want to spend some good time on these things. So I'm going to let Ashley take it away. She is going to talk about these phases and then how to create your detailed plan. And it's going to be so good. And then I'll keep an eye on the chat box.
Yay. Awesome. Oh my gosh, you guys, we are to my favorite part of the whole workshop. And that's where we actually start really taking all of Catherine's amazing planning and thoughtful system around creating our plan. And we're going to start plugging it in to your hiring strategies. So Catherine's thoughtful planning system, Ashley's strategic hiring plan. I don't know. I'm trying to say a word here, but I can't, the word's not coming to my brains right now. But we're going to start defining the key phases. So here's another thing that clients often come to me with. All of a sudden, they have thrown some half-attempted job posting out into the universe. They've put it everywhere. It's not super clear. And now they've said, just email me with your interest. And now they have 150 emails sitting in their inbox of all the wrong people. And they have to do something with these 150 people and their interest in this halfway crafted job that they've put into the universe. And now it's, oh, Ashley, I have this big, giant, disastrous mess. I need you to help me fix it. What we're going to do today is help you prepare ahead of time so you can avoid disaster and not end up with 150 not ideal candidates sitting in your inbox. So the first thing that we want to do is just talk ever so briefly about the types of workers that you can hire. There are independent contractors who can do work in your business that's generally for a specific period of time. It is something that maybe they specialize in or are really skilled or capable at. And it's something that you do not need to have control over. And so when you're looking at hiring an independent contractor, you have to look at the degree of control that you need to have over the person doing the work. That simply means, do you need to control what time they do their work? I need you to be here Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. That's a no-go. Do you need to control how they do their work? When I hire a painter to come in and paint my house, I don't tell them how to do their job. I don't know how to do their job. I'm not a painter. So I'm probably not going to follow them around and go, I really wouldn't use that roller. I think you should probably use this roller instead. And this is a really good, Catherine's giggling. I hope some of you guys are giggling too, because this is a really good example. People don't see it this way until you use something completely normal, like hiring somebody to paint your house, hiring a roofer. I don't know the first thing about putting a roof on. My husband does, but I don't. But I'm not going to be up there telling somebody, oh, well, I think you should be using this size nail versus that size, or this hammer versus that hammer. So you can't be telling your contractors how to do their job. You can set deadlines. You can ask them if they're willing to work within a certain project scope, but the more control that you need to have over that individual and the way they do their work and when they do their work, the more likely that person needs to be an employee. Without going too far down the independent contractor employee rabbit hole, which we could talk about all day long, I promise you. I'm just going to plug you guys up with a resource. I did a really great podcast interview with Autumn Witt-Boyd, who's an attorney for creatives, and her podcast is the Legal Roadmap Podcast, and ours is episode number 12, Hiring Contractors and Employees the Right Way. And this is going to give you all the information that you need to start figuring out should I hire a contractor or should I hire an employee? You can also consider hiring interns. However, you should be paying your interns. And I wrote a blog post about that called Why Your Unpaid Intern is Probably Illegal. So we'll link those up for you guys, especially in the replay email that you will get after this. So that way you can listen to that podcast and check out that blog post and learn a little bit more about the types of workers that you can hire in your business. But for now, we're going to keep moving along, and I'm going to start talking about the key phases of the hiring process. So we're on page 4. And the first one is job description. You're going to want to get really super clear, just like I was talking to Catherine earlier, about what you need for this person to do. An employee is someone who gets a job description, but you still need to define the role so that way you know who you need to hire, and that person can also say, oh, hey, I've got all those skills. I'd love to talk to you about this opportunity. So whether or not you hire a contractor or an employee, you need to get super, super clear on the things that you need to have done in your business. And also a quick reminder, one person can't do everything. You're not going to find somebody who's great at blogging, who's great at social media, who's great at audio transcribing for podcasts, and somebody who's excellent at graphic design and website design. Like, that one unicorn person is not going to exist. And if you've been in business for any amount of time, you know that we're often taught to niche down in our businesses, to focus on what we're really, really exceptional at. So you don't want to hire a jack of all trades who's only going to give you a so-so effort or so-so attempt in a lot of different areas, because that's not going to impact your business the way that you want. You're going to be left feeling, well, if that's as good as they could do it, I should just do it myself. You want to hire the experts who can help you nail it, knock it out of the park, and make sure that it's really impactful to your business. You want to focus on experience level. Do they have experience with the things that you need for them to be experienced in? Do they have the education, or do they have the certificates that they need in order to be the expert? So for example, in my business, I have 2 HR certifications that require me to take several hours of ongoing training. And that means that for you as a client, for you as a workshop participant, you're getting the latest up-to-date knowledge and information from me that's humanly possible. And so you can trust that person is an expert in their field, that they've done the work, they have the experience, they've got the qualifications to really give you proper guidance and direction. And also characteristics and competencies. This is especially really important for employees. Attention to detail. Are they customer oriented? Do you need them to have exceptional project management skills, time management skills? What are those competencies that are going to be essential for them to perform really, really well in this job? And oftentimes those competencies should be different than what we're good at. So I'm excellent at connecting with people, at talking, at giving presentations, at doing some of those, kind of things that people are always like, oh my God, that's so scary. But I need somebody who's a doer, somebody who can sit down and go, oh, I'm going to put this plan together like Catherine. This is why we're such good friends. She's a perfect complement to this side of me that I'm like, I don't really sit down and do plans like Catherine does. But going through this process with her really helped me learn a lot about how I could plan better and be more thoughtful in that process. So hire somebody or work with somebody who complements your competencies, your personality characteristics, so that way you can really benefit from having a well-rounded team. All right, I'm going to stop there for a moment and see if there's any questions, or Catherine, if you have anything to add to that. The next sections won't be quite as robust as that one.
No, I think that's great. I mean, if there's any questions, please drop them in the chat. What I think is really important, and what I think Ashley is getting at, is the bottom line is that your success of the hiring process starts with the job description.
Yes.
Like, if you get this wrong, or if you do not have clarity, or if you are not specific enough, it's going to throw off the rest of the process. And so the more clear and specific you can be with this, the better. And I mean, what we could do too, as we're going, Ashley, is you could talk about this and then we could actually give people a few minutes to write down all the things that they need to do for their job description.
Yeah.
And we could go through it phase by phase like that, because I think that's might be really helpful.
Yeah. So maybe just take a minute and jot down some ideas or thoughts that you maybe had triggered while I was talking. And then we will move on to the second phase.
Yeah. And the other thing too to think about with job description is, what are all the actions that you need to take? So write down the specifics, things about the job description that you're looking for, but also like maybe you want to run this job description by somebody else and say, hey, can you give me some perspective on this? So be thinking about what is your job description, but then what are the actions that you need to be taking in that? So I'm going to set a timer. We're going to give you a couple minutes to work on this. So we'll do a nice quick minute. And then Ashley is going to move on to the second stage, which is interview process. All right, so Ashley is going to start talking about the interview process now. And just to give you guys a heads up, because we started a few minutes later than we planned and we had a couple technical issues, we are going to be running a little bit past 12:30. So our goal is that by 12:45, we'll wrap all this up. But this next stuff, like this is where you're really creating your plan for how you're going to hire and then your timeline. So this is really important stuff that you want to do. So we don't want to skip out on this, but do plan on being around until 12:45. All right, take it away, Ashley.
Awesome. Okay, the next step is the interview process. And a lot of people think, oh, I just call people in, I talk to them, I make a decision, I move on about my business. But I want to challenge you to think about this a little more in depth. How many interviews are you going to have? I highly recommend doing a pre-screening interview first, so that way you don't waste a ton of time doing an hour-long interview with 10 or 15 or 20 people. You can do 10 or 15 minute pre-screening interviews to find out whether or not you even want this person to come in and spend an hour with you. And then at that point, do you also want to have somebody else sit in the interview with you, like a trusted fellow business owner, or do you have somebody on your team already that you would like to have sit in that interview with you, or conduct a whole second separate interview? The more interviews that you incorporate into your interview process, the more opportunities you're going to find discrepancies and inequities in the interview. People can be on their best behavior for one interview, but it's really hard for them to be on their best interview for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 interviews. And also getting a different perspective. Somebody else might see something that you've overlooked. A lot of times we come into the interview process with just natural biases. Maybe we hear them say something really, really great, and so we think everything that they say is great. Or we hear one bad thing that makes us go, ooh, I don't really know, and now we think that everything that they've said is bad. But having someone else in that interview process with you or in addition to you will really help you kind of avoid or eliminate or reduce those biases altogether. So here's some things for you to think about. How many interviews are you going to do? How long is each interview going to take? What interview questions are you going to ask? And you need to be consistent. You need to ask the same questions of every single interviewee for fairness, for equity, for equality, to make sure that you're not creating an unfair interviewing process by asking people different sets of questions. Where also are you going to post the job? That's going to be the start of your interviewing process. You don't want to just throw it out there anywhere. You want to make sure that you're posting it where your ideal candidate is, and that may be in a Facebook group, it may be at local coffee shops, it may be on a university's alumni website. So there's a lot of different places you can post it. So take a few minutes now and think about that interview process, from job posting to actually conducting the interviews to, how am I going to receive, or what types of ways am I going to receive resumes, and how am I going to kind of keep track of all of these pieces of the process?
That's awesome. So we're just going to give you a couple minutes. We'll mute ourselves, put on a timer, and think about that process and even the technology behind. How are you going to accept resumes? Is it via email? Is it via Typeform where they upload a resume? Like, what is the technical stuff that you're going to be using in that process? How are you going to track These are things that usually people don't think about until they're in the process, and then they're like, shoot, how am I going to track whether I've emailed, replied, and set up, or how are you setting up the interviews? Are you going back and forth with email with everyone, or are you going to use like a scheduling system where it's like, hey, pick your time? So those are the things you want to think about as well in this process. All right, so we're going to move on to the next section, conducting the actual interviews. Walk us through this process, Ashley.
I guess it would help if I unmuted myself first. All right, so conducting the interviews, you're going to want to set aside time to really focus on your interviews. These aren't things that you can just do off the side of your desk. It's not something you should be squeezing between a client call and a webinar that you're doing, or a variety of different tasks that you might be working on. I recommend setting up blocks of time and doing it from like 8 to 12 or 1 to 4. So that way you've got a whole block of time that you're focused on doing nothing but the interviews. So think about, where are you going to conduct the interviews? If you're doing them in person, do you have an office or a co-working space that you could do the interview at? Do you maybe need to go and see about renting a small conference room at a local hotel where you could have a professional environment to sit down with somebody and conduct your interview? If you're hiring someone virtually, I highly recommend getting on Zoom or Skype or FaceTime to interview with somebody. You want to see them interacting with you face to face as much as humanly possible. For doing a pre-screening interview, a phone interview is absolutely fine. Just hopping on the phone for 10 or 15 minutes. It's the least amount of time commitment, and it's not as involved, and there's no technology, and people can generally use the phone. So you want to make sure that you're creating the interview based around what makes the most sense. And so phone interviews, great way to start off a 10-minute interview. In-person interviews or Skype face-to-face interviews are really the best way to go. How are you going to do the interviews? Are you going to have a certain format? Are you going to want to make sure you have a checklist to talk about, okay, I asked these questions, I told them the next steps, I made sure I gave them the opportunity to ask questions. Just because when you get into an interview, you're probably going to be a little nervous, and you want to have something that you can just go down and make sure you hit all those major points. You don't want to forget something and then have to be following up with all these candidates later on. That's really a huge time waste. And if you can be more prepared on the front end, it's going to save you a lot of rework or extra work on the back end.
Do you guys sense a theme about being prepared? I hope you do. When you combine HR with planning, you're going to get the common theme of be prepared. Do your work ahead of time so that you know what you're doing and you're not worried and you're not stressed about it. So
right.
Yeah.
That's
anyway,
right.
You have a few more thoughts?
Yeah, it's all about being prepared and being in the mind space. You don't want to roll into an interview and never have looked at this person's resume. You're going to look like a big old moron, I promise, because people are going to be like, do you even know who I am? Like, why did you even call me for an interview if you didn't even take 5 minutes to look at my resume. So take the time to look at the resume, familiarize yourself with the candidate, know as much about them as you possibly can so you can save time during the interview, not going through a bunch of stuff they already sent you, but digging in deeper and really finding out more about that person. Be in a quiet environment. Don't have the cell phones going off. Don't have your email dinging. Don't be distracted. This is a two-way street. An interview is not just you to them. It is them trying you on for size. Do I really want to work for this person? Are they disorganized? Are they living in chaos? Do they seem like the hot mess express and I don't want to ride that train today? Because people will absolutely judge you 100%, but I promise you they will be way more nervous than you are. You are in the driver's seat, but you've got to have a good plan in order to drive the car to the destination. We don't want to end up at, the city dump if we're trying to get to the city park, right?
Yeah, that is so good. So hopefully you guys have made some notes in the conducting interviews, because I think Ashley's giving so many great examples. So as she does that, jot down the things that apply to you. So let's talk about offering the position, because this phase is kind of crucial.
Yeah, offering the position is going to happen a couple of different ways depending on the type of worker you're hiring. With independent contractors, it may just be, hey, love what you have to offer. I accept the proposal that you sent over, because they're generally going to send you a proposal, whether it's with, a PDF document, or they're just going to shoot you a quick email, or you're going through some sort of, client relationship management tool like Dubsado or HoneyBook or something like that. But you may just say, yep, love this, ready to move forward, sign the contract, pay the invoice, and bam, you've got yourself some help. Now, with an employee, you're going to be the one that's going to be initiating the offer letter. So having a really just basic offer letter put together that has their start date, their pay rate, whether that's hourly or salary, any sort of other benefits that you might offer if they have health benefits, or you do any sort of profit sharing, and those are really complicated things. You may just have a start date and a pay rate, and that's fine. That's totally fine. But those are just kind of some examples of other things that your offer letters might include. And you want to call the person and actually extend the offer verbally before you just shoot them over an offer letter. This whole process is all about relationship building rapport, making that connection, because if you can really connect with them in the interview process, they're going to be more loyal to you. They're going to be more excited to come to work for you. And it's not going to feel so robotic and so just tech driven. We can really cut out a lot of the human element by trying to be efficient and having all these things automated. But I truly believe that you should try to keep as much of the personal interaction in the interview process as possible. So you call that person, you get excited, you make that offer, and I promise you they will reward you with oh my gosh, I'm so excited. This is amazing. I can't wait to come work with you.
I love that. I love that human touch, because I think it's so easy for us to reply and rely on email. But I think making it mandatory, call or send an email and say, hey, can we chat later this week, and figure out a way to do it so that you can do that offer online. I love that. So I hope you guys are making notes as we go. Ashley's got a couple more sections, and you might have a few more thoughts under this position, the offering the position as well. But please, if you have questions as we're going, drop them in the chat so that we can be sure to answer them as we go. And we want to make sure that you guys are actually filling this out for your hire as well. Okay? So
what makes sense to you. All of the suggestions I'm giving you may not work for your business or the position that you're hiring, and that's okay. The idea is that I'm giving you as many of my very best tips that I possibly can so that you can create a hiring process that feels good for you, that works for the position that you're hiring for. But the next part is so incredibly important. I cannot emphasize it enough. Follow up with all of your no candidates. Now, you may be able to weed some people out pretty quickly from the beginning that just really don't meet the needs of the position. Go ahead and send them a form email that says, thanks so much for applying. At this time, we're going to be exploring other candidates who better meet our needs. We look forward to keeping you as a client, or feel free to follow us on Facebook or Instagram, stay in touch, whatever you want to say, but just short, simple, to the point, and out the door. Do not spend gobs of time. Have something you can copy and paste. Make sure you change their name, because there's nothing worse than getting a form email that has somebody else's name on it. Blah. But you want to maintain those relationships with those people, because even if you don't hire them, they might be one of your best customers or one of your best advocates for your business. And if they can feel respected during the interview process, that is only going to be good PR for you and your business. So keep those relationships strong, even with your no candidates. Also, another important factor to consider: do not tell everyone no until you get an accepted offer letter signed in your inbox. Hey, I'm ready to go. Because there's nothing worse than going back to someone that you've told, thanks, but no thanks. We've gone with this other guy who's much better aligned to the position, and then come crawling back going, oh my God, please.
Awkward turtle.
Oh my God, awkward turtle all day long. Y'all, I have been there. Let me just save you the pain and the agony of doing this highly, incredibly stupid move. Just don't do it. Get the offer letter, get it signed, get it back in your email box. I don't care if you have to use HelloSign or send it through Dubsado, or send it to them, say print it off and scan it and send it back to me. Whatever you need to do, get that signed commitment before you tell other people no. If you have somebody who's made it really far in the interview process and you're down to like one or two candidates in addition to the person you've selected, give them a phone call. Just give them the courtesy of that final personal touch. Again, it's all about maintaining those relationships. And you never know. You might be looking for someone to hire in 6 more months, and you go back to that person and say, hey, we had another position open up. We're now able to afford a second person. I would love to welcome you into this role. And then guess what? You've already done all the work. You don't have to go through this whole process again, because you found the second best candidate possible. So those are just a couple of tips with following up with your no candidates. And just real quickly here at the end on page 5, onboarding. Y'all, let me tell you, you should start planning your onboarding now, not at the end of the process, even though that's where it technically falls. Onboarding is more than just a checklist, but you should have a checklist for the things that you want to make sure you're covering with your new team member. But here's the thing. If you wait until you're ready for this new person to start, you're going to be running around like a chicken with your head cut off. You're not going to know what to cover with them. They're going to come in on their first day, and you're probably going to be ill prepared. They're going to feel that. They're going to say, man, was this lady or guy even ready for me to be here? Like, I feel like a nuisance. You do not want to make your new employees feel like a nuisance.
Not at all. One quick thing to interject here is, with the onboarding, like, you actually want to think through, what exactly are they going to be doing? Do I have specific ways I want them doing something? So sometimes it's just like, I want you to do this every week, and it's a task that you want somebody to do. But sometimes you're going to need to be really specific. And if you have a program or a task management system or something that you want them to be using, you're going to have to train them on how to do that. So you want to be thinking through all of that well before you probably even start putting out your job description to hire, because all of this process that Ashley was just walking us through, like figuring out the interviews, having them all, going back and forth, deciding what you're going to do, hiring somebody, that can take a lot of time. And then suddenly you're like, oh, perfect. They're hired. They just signed. And if you're not ready for them, it's going to be a huge hurdle. So have your stuff, have your training, have all your documents ready to go, have your systems and checklists and all of your training stuff ready, not just for onboarding them to your company, but also for onboarding them so that they know exactly what they're going to be doing and how they need to be doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's the kind of the major points that I wanted to cover with you about the hiring process. And I promise you, if you take the time to really think about what to do in each of these phases, you're going to be so much more prepared and better equipped to make not only the right hiring decision, but one that feels with a lot more ease. We want the process to feel not rushed and anxious and, oh my God, I didn't even think about this thing. This is to give you the opportunity to really sit back and think, wow, there's a lot of steps in this process that I need to think about that I never considered before. So now we're going to talk a little bit about the timing of this. And I'm going to give you some pretty realistic expectations, okay? So y'all hold your hats on. This is why you'll find out that I'm not a fan of the hire somebody in 24 hours propaganda, we'll call it. So you should expect to take about a week to write your job description. I want you to write it. I want you to get feedback on it. I want you to sleep on it and come back to it and make sure that it feels right. It's not something that you should whip together in 10 minutes and then just throw on every major job board out there. That's not going to get you the best results. You should plan to have your job posted for 1 to 2 weeks at minimum. You may start getting a ton of interest in that first week. You may not get any interest until week 2. Sometimes you may need to leave your job posted for 4, 6, 8 weeks. It just depends on who is looking for the type of work that you have available right now. But job description, about 1 week. Job posting, about 2 weeks. The third thing is expect to spend 1 to 2 weeks interviewing. And again, based on your schedule, how much time you have available, how many hours you're actually working in your business, this may be longer for you. But I would at least schedule 2 days over the course of 2 weeks to get all your interviews in. Not everybody's going to be available at the same time. It just happens. But like Catherine mentioned earlier, I'm a huge fan of having candidates schedule their interview using the Acuity scheduling tool, because then they can see when you're available, and that kind of forces them to fit into a time slot. None of this crazy back and forth email hocus pocus that happens. Not sitting on the phone for 25 minutes trying to look at calendars and figure out dates and times. You choose your blocks of interview times. Try to do a morning, try to do an afternoon or an evening, and get those candidates to self-schedule.
That is really great. I love that how you said give yourself 2 weeks with multiple blocks. I think that's really important because people aren't, if you say, oh, I'll just have 1 week of interviews. Well, what if that person's on vacation and they're the perfect candidate? So I think you don't want to limit yourself as you're doing that. And one thing I'd encourage you guys just with your worksheet, as Ashley's going through this, as she's saying, like 1 week to write your job description. In week 1, write down, oh, I'm going to write my job description in week 1. And then she said 2 weeks to have your job posted. So write down in week 2 and week 3, job posted, job posted. And you know what I added to my worksheet? Work on onboarding.
Yes.
That's what I'm going to work on for week 2 and 3 while my job is being posted and people are applying. They're going to get an automatic reply and thank you. So I don't need to follow up. There's nothing I need to do while people are doing that. So I'm going to get all my onboarding and checklists and make sure that my interview prep and process and checklist is done. So as Ashley's going through with this timeline, follow along with her and write down, okay, what can I realistically get done during this week while I'm doing that? Maybe while I'm interviewing, I can also be working on, writing my template for my no candidates or whatever. So get creative with actually filling in the week by week as she's going through this, because that's going to really support you. We still will give you a few minutes at the end to be able to do that, but just wanted to encourage you to work on the worksheet while she's talking.
Yes, absolutely. And you can also, during those 2 weeks of the job posting, start reviewing, the resumes that are coming in and just start getting those no letters out there to candidates who really are not a good fit at all. Just get them off your plate and out of the way, because I promise you, the quicker you can follow up with people, the less people will be in your inbox asking you, have you scheduled interviews yet? Have you made a decision? Am I going to get a call? Because then you're going to create so much more work for yourself if you don't just stay on top of getting those no letters out. Then you also want to, start scheduling those interviews. When you find a candidate that you're like, oh yeah, I'd love to talk to them, send them that Acuity link. Hi, I'm interested. Thank you so much for applying. We're interested in talking with you. Here's the link to our first interview. And then bam, let them schedule it. And then like Catherine said, she's going to have that auto reply set up. Thank you so much for scheduling your interview. I look forward to talking to you soon. That's all you need to do. It does not need to be complicated. The next is schedule 1 to 2 weeks for your interview. Did we just talk about that? I feel like I just talked about that a little bit.
You mentioned it. That's where we had kind of ended, was with a couple weeks of interviewing.
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah.
I got a little bit sidetracked there. So then you want to give at least 2 weeks for them, or 1 week for them to, you extend the offer and them to accept it. Give them a deadline to accept the offer. Don't just send it out there into outer space and say, hey, here's our offer. We hope you accept the position. Give them a deadline. We need your decision by Friday at 5 p.m. So that way they're kind of pushed into making a decision and you're able to stay on top of the process. And if they're not the right candidate, if they decide to decline, you can go to the next person and not waste weeks and weeks of time kind of going back and forth and waiting on them to make up their mind. Then you want to move into the next phase, and that's giving that person potentially up to 2 weeks to give a notice at their current job if you're hiring them as an employee. Or if you're hiring a contractor, they may not be able to fit you into their schedule for 2 weeks or 4 weeks or, for 2 months. So making sure that you understand what those time parameters are going to be when you're talking to people. I always ask in the interview, when's the earliest that you would be available to work with me? Bam, easy question they can give you, and then you can really build that into your timeline. And then the last section is onboarding. Give yourself a week or 2 weeks to really get that person onboarded well. And then from there, what you can do is have a couple of weeks of buffer time also in your interview process. So if you're looking at the last 3 pages of our worksheet, we have 10 weeks here available for you to go through this whole entire interviewing process. I promise you that it's not always going to take 10 weeks. It's not always going to take 6 weeks or 8 weeks, but on average, it will take you 6 to 8 weeks to hire an actual employee in your business. A contractor, it might take you 2 to 3 weeks, but there are times where, I've filled positions, it's taken me 6 months. Here's the thing, bottom line, interview until you find the best person for the job. You do not want to hire the best of the worst because you're still hiring the worst person for the job.
Truth bomb. That is a really good comment. So that is then the timeline that you build out. And so I don't know about you guys, but I think this has been filled with so many ideas and tips and training, and hopefully this process will really work for you. So what we'd love to know is, do you guys have any questions? Are there any questions for either Ashley or I, or clarification that you need with your specific business? Because we'd love to be able to support you. We're not going to give you any more like work time per se on the call, because we are well over our time. So we have learned that this is longer than 90 minutes. But what I do want to talk about is calendar. There's a few things that you want to take into account when you're doing your timeline. Look at your calendar when you're planning this out. Do you have other commitments? Are you traveling for speaking, conferences? Are you on vacation? Do you have a big launch during that time period where you have to write off 2 weeks because you're in the middle of launching a new program or opening the doors again? With your current business and everything that you have to do, how many hours do you even have available each week to focus on the interview process? Like for me right now, the amount of hours I have are 0, but my goal is to get ahead with some of my other content so that by the time I'm a couple months farther along, I'm able to carve out, okay, I'm going to spend 1 or 2 hours every day that I'm working on this interview process so I can move it along. So it will become a project that I focus on. But right now, it's not fitting in my calendar, mainly because I'm a mom and I work very part-time hours, and I have to be flexible with that and honor my clients and my current programs that I'm running. So those are just some things to keep in mind, because here's the thing, life does not go as planned. No matter how well we've planned, no matter what we have set up, stuff happens. We get sick. We have things that happen. A child gets sick. We decide to move, or, all of these things can happen and come up unexpectedly. And so we want to just really give ourselves grace. And as Ashley said, hiring the best person and waiting for that is really, really important. So if you've got questions, please drop them in the chat. We will put links to blog posts and podcasts and stuff like that as in the replay email. So if you miss anything, or if you are watching the replay, hopefully that is really helpful for you. We'll also note how long the workshop is in the replay, because it's a little over 90 minutes. So we'll put that in there as well. But please drop some questions in. As you guys are dropping questions in the chat, I just want to share, this is our only promo, okay, that I'm going to share. I'm going to share where you can find us. So you obviously, is it showing our contact information?
Yes, I see
Okay,
it.
all of a sudden it just disappeared and I was like, shoot, what is it showing? So this is our contact information. So Ashley, you go through your stuff quick.
All right, so you can find me hanging out on Instagram most often at Sprout_HR. And I love to hop on Insta stories and give quick tips and advice and share kind of some behind the scenes and things that are going on. And you can also find me over at SproutHR.co, that's .co, not .com, where you can learn more about my services, my business, a little bit about me. But I would love to connect with you guys in any way, shape, or form.
Nice. That's awesome. And so then with Modern Planner, you guys can find me. I am on Instagram as well, modern_planner. And then my website is modernplanner.com. So that's where you guys can find us on social. However, because you guys signed up for this training, you are going to get a welcome email from both Ashley and I next week, just outlining a little bit more of what you can expect from our community and giving you some more details for how we can possibly help you. So please feel free to reach out. If you have questions about this training, about this process, reach out, ask for clarification. We would love to help you along the way. And obviously come follow us so that we can share more details with you. And we are so excited that you joined us for today's training. And thank you. Thank you, Liz. This has been awesome, ladies. Thank you so much. All right. We really appreciate it. And we hope that this has been super helpful for you. So it doesn't look like there's any questions popping up in the chat, and that is totally okay. I am sure you are just absorbing all of the information, and your brain might be running wild with ideas and things and that you need to be planning and preparing for. And that is totally okay. So a huge thank you for coming, for spending this much time with us. Like, guys, we're approaching 3 hours. 3 hours?
2 hours.
2 hours. I'm sorry. We're approaching 2 hours. And so we know that this is a big time commitment. So we feel very honored that you guys have chosen to spend this time with us.
Yes, but connect with us on social media. We would love to cheer you on in your journey and really just provide you with some encouragement, be there for you when you have questions. But to Shannon, Christine, and Kiana, and I know Liz just jumped off, and the other folks who were able to join us live, thank you guys so much for being here. It is an honor
Thank
to
you.
spend time with you, and we look forward to seeing you around the social channels.
Bye.
Bye.